morning, opening up, Queensland cleared for Christmas holidays, separated families finally celebrate. Stood down, Victoria police officers refusing the COVID jab. The campsite mystery that's shocked Australia, the race to find out if a little girl wandered off or was abducted. And remembering Colin Powell, tributes for the former US Secretary of State.
This is 7 News with Jody Spears.
Good morning. Queensland will reopen its borders by Christmas after the Premier released the state's long-awaited roadmap. Fully vaccinated travellers will be allowed to enter once the state reaches the 70% double dose mark, but they must test negative and complete 14 days home quarantine. The quarantine restriction will be lifted at 80%, slated for December the 17th. But Anastasia Palaszczuk says that date will stick even if the target isn't reached.
That December 17 is locked in. We have to give certainty. I think we'll see the possibility of families being able to reunite in time for Christmas.
For communities that fail to reach vaccine targets, the government's warning there could be localised lockdowns during outbreaks. Victorian businesses have been offered more than $54 million in grants as the state races towards Thursday night's reopening. Selected retailers will be able to apply for vouchers to support outdoor service. But as Victorians prepare to welcome new freedoms, the state's hospital system is still facing serious pressure.
Whilst we're excited about what's going to happen on Thursday, we have 850 people in hospital today dealing with the consequences of a very serious illness.
Changes to isolation rules have been announced. Fully vaccinated close contacts will only need to spend 7 days in isolation. Dozens of Victoria police officers risk losing their jobs for refusing the COVID vaccine. 34 officers and 9 protective services officers have been stood down and referred to the Professional Standards Command. Exemptions from having the jab can only apply if an employee has a medical issue. Workers had until October 15 to get at least 1 dose. The south of Tasmania has emerged from its snap lockdown. 12 local government areas were under restrictions for 3 days after a COVID-positive New South Wales man allegedly fled hotel quarantine. Rules on aged care and hospital visits, as well as a mask mandate, remain until this Friday. Police in Victoria are closing in on solving one of the country's biggest mysteries. Detectives believe Carol Clay and Russell Hill, who've been missing for 19 months, were killed on a camping trip. Their families have spoken about the agony of not knowing what happened.
It's really hard. It's not getting any better. Not knowing.
Police suspect their bodies have been hidden in the Wonnangatta Valley. The search for a missing girl in Western Australia has taken a sinister turn. Homicide detectives have now been called in with growing fears that 4-year-old Cleo Smith has been abducted. She vanished from her family's campsite on Saturday, last seen going to bed. In the morning, she was gone. The Coalition Party Room will meet today as it struggles to agree on a plan for net zero emissions by 2050. The Prime Minister is adamant he'll take a policy to the climate summit in Glasgow with or without the support of the Nationals. Let's go live to political reporter Taylor Aiken. Good morning, Taylor. What can we expect from today's meeting?
Jody, good morning. Will likely more discussion and trying to convince undecided Nationals to commit to a net zero emissions target by 2050. Scott Morrison has given the Nationals more time to examine the climate policy, but says the final decision will be made within the Cabinet if the coalition as a whole can't agree on the final plan to tackle climate change. The Prime Minister is confident he will take a firm commitment of net zero by 2050 to the Glasgow Climate Summit in 2 weeks, with or without the National support, saying without one would disappoint important allies such as the United States at a time when Australia is trying to build up our US alliance. Jody?
OK, Taylor Aiken in Canberra, thank you. The corruption hearing into the former New South Wales Premier has begun with a recording from a secret hearing. In her own words, Gladys Berejiklian told investigators she was shocked and didn't know what to think when corruption allegations were levelled against her then boyfriend, Daryl Maguire.
Gladys Berejiklian, 12 days before she sensationally resigned as Premier, grilled in secret by ICAC lawyers.
I didn't have enough detail. I hadn't read what was happening. I can't remember what I thought at that time.
The video was played on the opening day of the ICAC inquiry, drilling into the former Premier's 5-year relationship with disgraced MP Daryl Maguire. She insisted she had no suspicions about him.
I didn't know.
I'm not asking whether you knew. I'm asking you whether at that point in time you suspected that Mr Maguire was engaged in corrupt conduct or had been engaged in corrupt conduct.
I didn't know. I didn't know what. I was in shock. I didn't know what to think.
Questions over conflicts of interest, why the relationship wasn't declared regardless of her privacy.
Put another way, public duties come first.
Evidence was tabled showing she'd declared 4 other relationship conflicts, but Daryl was never declared. The first witness, senior bureaucrat Michael Toohey, who said if he'd known they were dating, he would have told ICAC.
I can't see how that's anything but a conflict of interest.
Chris Reason, 7 News.
Former US Secretary of State Colin Powell has died of COVID complications at the age of 84. Powell was the first African-American Secretary of State under President George W. Bush. He's being remembered as a remarkable and loving husband and father and a great American. We'll have more from US correspondent David Woiwod a little later in the bulletin. Parts of Queensland have been hit by tornadoes as a wave of wild weather lashes the state. The tornadoes struck near Gladstone and Pittsworth in the state's southeast as rain, hail and thunder battered nearby suburbs. Thunderstorms are forecast for the remainder of the week. The Olympic torch has been lit during a ceremony in Greece ahead of next year's Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. For a second year, the flame was lit in an empty stadium at the ruins of the Temple of Hera. Only a small number of Olympic officials were allowed to attend. Several protesters with flags and banners managed to get into the event before being stopped by security. In sport, Australia's T20 World Cup preparations have started in sizzling fashion, beating New Zealand in their first warm-up match. Steve Smith's light hands restricted the Kiwis to just 158. After being left out of Hyderabad's first-choice team in the IPL, David Warner still can't seem to catch a break.
First ball, and what a catch! Plucked it out of thin air.
The game went right down to the final over, Josh Inglis hitting the winning runs on the second last ball. Australia's first game is on Saturday against South Africa. Irish fast bowler Curtis Campher had a day out against the Netherlands. In his side's opening group match, he'd already picked up a hat-trick, but he wasn't satisfied.
There's another one, 4-4, Curtis Campher. What are you delivering? Are those cannonballs or cricket balls?
Campher's 4 straight wickets kept the Dutch to just 106, so it was only fitting he hit the winning runs. Warriors star Reece Walsh has pledged to change his behaviour after his cocaine charge. The 19-year-old was given a $400 fine and a good behaviour bond.
Yeah, I'm just really embarrassed and ashamed of what happened, and work really hard to bounce back from this and make sure something like this never happens again.
He's a young guy, he's made a mistake and he's owned it, so he wants to move forward here for his family.
Walsh had already been given a 2-match ban and a $5,000 fine from the NRL. Checking Tuesday's weather now, Brisbane a possible thunderstorm, a top of 26 degrees. Sydney a late shower, 21. Canberra showers heading for 16. Melbourne a possible shower, 18 degrees. Hobart mostly sunny, 13 the top. Adelaide sunny and 25 today. Perth a possible thunderstorm, 21. And Darwin mostly sunny, 35 degrees. Coming up on 7 Early News, a check of finance and burnout blitz, a driver's costly joyride caught on camera. Plus, a baby boom of a different kind. More women are freezing their eggs, but it's not cheap. Why potential mothers say it's worth it. That's next. These are the stories we're following on Early News. Queensland will open for Christmas. The Sunshine State will welcome back fully vaccinated travellers without quarantine on or before December 17. 43 Victoria Police employees have been stood down for failing to get vaccinated against COVID-19. WA's most experienced investigators are leading the search for a little girl who's disappeared from a remote campsite. And the Prime Minister is adamant he will take a policy of net zero to Glasgow, with or without the full support of the Nationals, as the Coalition Party Room meets today. Digital COVID vaccine certificates for overseas travel can be downloaded through Medicare or MyGov from today. Personal QR codes will be assigned, allowing fully immunised people to travel outside of Australia once international borders reopen. The technology can be used across 145 countries. A Hoon driver has been charged and had his vehicle seized by police after a wild burnout damaged a road on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. The 39-year-old, allegedly at the wheel of the Nissan, was arrested at his home following the dangerous act on Saturday. He is the first person charged under strengthened anti-hooning laws, holding the vehicle's owner responsible. 2 people have been stabbed in a Melbourne supermarket. One man was knifed at a Woolworths checkout yesterday morning, suffering serious wounds to his upper body. A security guard was stabbed in the back in front of shocked customers.
There was a man running around with a knife. He threatened to kill me, and a security guard and another guy had to stop him.
The attacker injured himself before he was tasered by police. Sydney's Star Casino operator is facing a possible class action lawsuit. Law firm Morris Blackburn is preparing a case following reports the company enabled suspected money laundering and organised crime. Nearly $1 billion in shareholder value has already been wiped out. The law firm says the class action will allege Star engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct. There's a baby boom on the way, but we won't see it for a few years. Fertility clinics reporting a massive increase in women choosing to freeze their eggs. It's a costly option with no guaranteed outcome, but potential mothers say the peace of mind is worth it.
At 33, Brittany Hockley was unsure if a family was in her future, but sure she wanted the option, she chose to freeze her eggs.
And realised that, do you know what, I do unfortunately have a body clock. Statistics could be against me.
The number of women freezing their eggs has soared 40% during the pandemic, according to fertility specialist Janaea.
In COVID times, as people are finding that it's harder to find a partner.
Overall, the technology is becoming more efficient and successful. A study by the University of New South Wales found the rate of live births from frozen embryos had soared from 20% in 2010 to 30% in 2019, overtaking births from fresh embryos. While success rates are traditionally lower for those aged over 35, they too have been improving.
Vast majority of women coming to me for Janaea Horizon egg freezing would be women in their 35 to 39 age group.
Egg freezing isn't cheap. It costs around $4,000 for the first cycle, plus medication, surgery and annual storage fees, with women often opting for a second, sometimes even a third retrieval. And while it offers no guarantee of a successful pregnancy, patients say what it does provide is peace of mind.
It was giving myself an option for later in life.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
After 11 years as the Yellow Wiggle, Emma Watkins is leaving the iconic children's group. The first ever female member says she wants to devote more time and energy to other passions. She'll be replaced by 16-year-old world champion dancer Sahi Hawkins, who's appeared in the Wiggles spin-off series Fruit Salad TV. Checking finance now, the Dow Jones is trading down this morning. The Nasdaq is higher. In London, the FTSE fell and Germany's DAX lost. Closer to home, Japan's Nikkei closed higher. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose. The All Ords finished the day higher, as did the ASX 200. On the commodities market, gold is trading at $1,765 an ounce. Oil is $82 a barrel. The Aussie dollar is buying 74.16 US cents, 84.5 Japanese yen, and $1.04 New Zealand. Coming up on 7 Early News, swept away. Flooding in India leaves dozens dead and missing. Plus tributes for Colin Powell. The former Secretary of State dies after COVID complications. Live to the US next. These are the stories we're following on Early News. Queensland will open for Christmas. The Sunshine State will welcome back fully vaccinated travellers without quarantine on or before December 17. 43 Victoria Police employees have been stood down for failing to get vaccinated against COVID. WA's most experienced investigators are leading the search for a little girl who's disappeared from a remote campsite. And the Prime Minister is adamant he will take a policy of net zero to Glasgow with or without the full support of the Nationals as the Coalition Party Room meets today. Tributes are being paid to former US Secretary of State Colin Powell, who died of COVID complications aged 84. Let's go live now to US correspondent David Woywood. Good morning, David. He devoted his life to serving his country.
He did. Good morning, Jodie. Colin Powell's life was one really dedicated to service. He was a career soldier who rose to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was a career diplomat as well as Presidential National Security Advisor. Sadly, though, the four-star general died on Monday from COVID-19 complications. The 84-year-old was fully vaccinated but battling myeloma, a cancer of his body's plasma cells. Tributes today from the current president. Even in disagreement, Colin Powell was someone who always gave you his best and treated you with respect, while the current Defence Secretary, Lloyd Austin, today remembered a pioneer.
The world lost one of the greatest leaders that we have ever witnessed. First African-American chairman of the Joint Chiefs. First African-American Secretary of State. A man who was respected around the globe.
Now, General Powell's military doctrine reshaped US foreign policy, lauded for his leadership in the First Gulf War. His reputation suffered when he made the case for the Second Gulf War in 2003. Today, though, both Democrats and Republicans remembered a man of service, perhaps put best by Barack Obama today. General Powell helped a generation of young people set their sights higher. Jodie?
OK, David Woywood, thank you. The UK Parliament has held a minute's silence in memory of murdered MP Sir David Amess. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson led the House of Commons in paying tribute.
He was also one of the nicest, kindest and most gentle individuals ever to grace these benches.
Meantime, Sir David Amess's family has visited the church where he was killed during a meeting with his constituents. Dramatic video has captured the moment a house was swept away by raging floodwaters in southern India. The home was one of several washed into a swollen river. At least 26 people have been killed in floods and landslides as rescuers search through muddy debris looking for survivors. Fire has broken out at Kuwait's largest oil refinery. Residents reported hearing a large explosion and watched as plumes of black smoke billowed into the sky. Several workers suffered minor injuries, including smoke inhalation. It took emergency crews several hours to extinguish the blaze. In sport, Australia has gotten a confidence booster ahead of their first World Cup match, beating New Zealand in their first warm-up clash. Steve Smith starred in the field and with the bat, top scoring as his side chased down 159. The game went right down to the final over, Josh Inglis hitting the winning runs on the second last ball. Australia begin their World Cup campaign on Saturday against South Africa. A slice of history helped Ireland win their opening World Cup match against the Netherlands. Fast bowler Curtis Campher claimed a double hat-trick by getting 4 wickets in a row. Campher is just the third man to ever achieve the feat. Warriors star Reece Walsh has pledged to change his behaviour after his cocaine charge. The 19-year-old was given a $400 fine and good behaviour bond after pleading guilty. Walsh had already been given a 2-match ban and a $5,000 fine from the NRL. And talk about a joyride. Red Bull Racing's Sergio Perez took an F1 car to the streets of Dallas. The Mexican-born driver proved everything is bigger in Texas as he piloted the car around the city centre to promote the upcoming United States Grand Prix. Some motorcyclists joined the fun, pulling some donuts on 2 wheels. Coming up on 7 Early News, a closer look at how the weather's shaping up in your part of the country. The Sydney Opera House has provided a spectacular backdrop for a special tribute to frontline workers. A series of images of our health and emergency service workers was projected onto the sails of the famous landmark overnight. The tribute comes as Australia inches towards the 70% double vaccination target. Taking a look at the weather around the country now, troughs are triggering showers and storms over parts of the Northern Territory, Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. Around the capital's Brisbane, a possible thunderstorm, a top of 26 degrees. Sydney, a late shower heading for 21. Canberra, showers and 16. Melbourne, a possible shower, 18. Hobart, mostly sunny, a top of just 13 today. Adelaide, sunny, heading for 25. Perth, a possible thunderstorm, 21 the top. And Darwin, mostly sunny and 35 degrees. And that's 7 Early News for this Tuesday.